Hey, welcome to Saucy Shawn's Fine Eats, where we cook real food for real people. We're continuing on our series for Pie Day here. People think of pie, and what do they think of? Fruit pies, sweet pies, bumbleberry pie, chocolate peanut butter pie. Coming up soon, they think of apple pie. But there's also pizza pie. Yeah, that's too pedestrian. We're not doing that today. There's also things like shepherd's pie and cottage pie and meat pies. And that's what we're going to do next year. We're going to do a cottage pie and a meat pie at the same time. Because they're almost the same thing. They just kind of have a different finish. A meat pie is cooked in pastry, and a cottage pie is cooked with a mashed potato topping and no crust. You're wondering, what is a cottage pie? Well, a cottage pie is pretty much the same thing as a shepherd's pie, except a shepherd's pie has to have lamb in it, and a cottage pie can have beef or pork or whatever, generally beef. Recipes for these are varied. I've looked on the internet, I found a couple. I made a really good recipe for what I called shepherd's pie. I should have called it cottage pie when I was up at Gull Lake for a large group of people in a hotel pan. But the really cool thing is, this is to make something that you like. It's not about what the recipe says. You can follow one, you can follow it exactly, and that's fine. But really it comes down to, what do you like? For example, most meat pies and shepherd's pies and cottage pies have onion. I'm not a big fan of onion, so I'm not going to use any. So we're just going to dive right into this and see what happens. We're going to start by taking some hot oil, which is really hot right now. And I diced up about 4 carrots and 4 celery sticks. And we're just going to throw it in here in the hot oil, a little bit of olive oil, and we're going to cook them up. And we're just going to let it cook up until they're soft and cooked a little bit, and kind of creating the base for what we're going to do here. Now, if you don't like carrots, hey, don't use carrots. Get some peas, get some corn, get some beans. If you don't like celery, same thing. I mean, my son thinks celery is a killer. It'll kill you because there's no real nutritional value. You get a bit of fiber out of it, you get a bit of moisture, but it's going to kill you because if you ate nothing but celery, you die. He's not totally wrong. But it's not to say celery is bad. It has a good place.
You probably shouldn't eat just anything.
You shouldn't eat just anything. So if I had some fresh garlic, I'd throw some fresh garlic in here too. But we don't have that at the moment, so that's okay. We're just going to let this cook up a bit, let things soften up a bit. And while that's happening, I'm going to throw in the garlic now because guess what? I like garlic. I'm not going to give you measurements because you know what? It really is about your taste. Sarah, my lovely daughter, said something to me a few years ago after she'd been married for a year or two. It's not hard to make yummy food. You just throw things you like in a pot and cook it up and it tastes good. And she's right. It's not hard to make food you like. I love garlic. I'm going to throw a bunch of garlic in there. A couple tablespoons. I'm going to leave the rest of it for now. But I just want the garlic to fry up in there. You want to kind of go to a medium-high heat. Use a frying pan or a really heavy-bottom Dutch oven for this. I thought about using my Dutch oven, and after I put all these veggies in, I really wish I had. But that's okay. As I've said many times, this is about not about perfection. This is about making stuff that's good and that's easy. We don't want to mystify cooking and make it so that you're afraid to cook something because you're afraid it's not going to be perfect. Just making things easy. So we're going to let this cook up for a couple minutes. Okay, this has been cooking for a couple minutes. It's just to start getting things softening up. And now we're going to add the beef. Use a lean ground beef. Don't use regular ground because you're not going to want to drain the fat from this. So we're just going to dump. I've got about 3 pounds of ground beef here. We're going to dump that in there. And I'll break it up and I'll get it cooking away. And really it's just a matter of waiting at the moment for the beef to cook. You want to get it browned up. And we're going to, after it browns up a bit more, we're going to add some more ingredients to it, let it simmer for a while. But not too long, because guess what? This can cook in the pan. So there we go. We're going to let that cook for a few minutes. Okay, so this is browning up really well now. I should have used the Dutch oven for how much I'm making, but you know, you live and learn. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to add some more seasoning to it. I'm going to add some pepper, probably about half a teaspoon to a teaspoon. Maybe a little bit more. Going to add a little bit of oregano. I feel like some oregano today, so about a teaspoon. I'm going to put a couple teaspoons of salt in. There we go. And then we're going to add some beef bouillon. You can use bouillon cubes. You can not add it. I'm using this Better Than Bouillon from Costco. I really like this stuff, at least the vegetable version. It's really good. I'm going to add about a tablespoon and a half or so of bouillon in there. It's just going to help with the flavor, the base of the flavor. And then we're going to add some water. Now this is where I should be adding probably about 4 cups of water to this and let it boil down a bit. But may not be able to because I may have put too small of a pan. But I'm going to start with 2 cups. Going to mix that all up really well. I'm going to let that cook up. I'd rather let that cook and reduce a little bit. Yeah, that'll be enough water. The recipes I looked at actually called for a lot of water and a lot of, well, actually a lot of broth. But I figure they also had flour in to thicken it up, so it kind of defeats itself. So what we're going to do is just kind of go in between. Going to add a little bit of broth, which is the bouillon and water. Going to let that cook for, let's call it 10 minutes. And if we have to thicken it up a bit, we will do that at that time. This is gluten-free. We can also thicken it up with rice flour. Rice flour makes a really good alternative, and so does cornstarch. I prefer rice flour. But yeah, we'll actually probably end up with some rice flour in it because that gives it a bit of gravy, the liquid. But we're going to let that just cook for about 10 minutes or so. Just to mix the flavors in. One of the cool things is this is you can do with leftovers. You don't have to do it with, you know, fresh ground beef and fresh mashed potatoes. You can do this whole thing with leftovers. And you can use, you know, kind of roast up into small pieces and use it instead of ground beef. All sorts of things you can do with this. So let's just let this cook up. Okay, so our meat sauce is thickened up here. Tastes good. It's looking good. What we're going to do is divide it in about half. I'm going to take about half of it, put it into this bowl here. Now, if you were just making one of these, and you weren't being crazy like Shawn is, you wouldn't have to worry about this part. You just go ahead and finish your pie off. So we're taking half out to use in our meat pie. That should be way more than enough to fill in there. And we'll leave the other half in this pan. And I'm just going to, because this is cast iron, I'm just going to cook the cottage pie right in here because it's going to make it so much easier. You should see Sarah's face right now. She's like, I'm brilliant. I keep telling her I'm smart, but she doesn't always believe me. You know how kids are.
Yes, I do.
So both of these use mashed potatoes. The cottage pie uses mashed potatoes as a top crust, and the meat pie gets mashed potatoes mixed into it. So we're going to grab our pot of mashed potatoes. This really is a good use of leftover mashed potatoes. You can do lots of them. You can do little of them. What I've done here is I've done a shortcut. The first shortcut I do is when I make mashed potatoes, I don't peel them. I just do it peeled and all because it makes everyone's life so much easier. The other shortcut I've done here is, in this case, I've done something because I've got a lot going on today. I've used some instant mashed potatoes. Ah, Shawn, you used instant mashed potatoes? Yes, I did. But I'm very particular about the ones I use. I actually use a couple of different kinds. I really love, there was a, Costco had a brand called Creamy Mash that was really, really good. They didn't have them this time. They had another one which is just Spuds or something like that. They actually aren't as good. They're still okay. But the key thing is this. The ingredients are potatoes, butter, salt. Okay, I've seen instant mashed potatoes where they've got an ingredient list that big. You've got to be a chemist to read it, and they're horrible. With these, it's just potatoes dehydrated. There's another brand I used. It's a commercial food brand. It's Basic American Foods. You can get them from Gordon and Cisco and sometimes Wholesale Club. They are really good. They're actually a riced potato. They're just dehydrated potatoes and salt. And not a lot of salt, and a little bit of preservative, just a little bit. But like a 3-ingredient potato. They're really great. We took a break there because Sarah, and she's right, thinks our pantry looks really cluttered. And she's right, it is. It's one of my projects I have to work on is to rebuild the shelving in the pantry. It's just not quite happening yet. Back to the potatoes. Anyways, these are good. So what we're going to do is take this. This is going to be our meat pie potatoes. Meat pie. Now we're just going to dump the equivalent of probably 3 mashed potatoes into it. And we're going to mix that up. So that's going to mix up. It's going to soak up all the gravy. It's going to become a mixture. And you know what? When I look at it, I'm going to say to myself, man, that's going to be way too much for the pie crust. But that's okay. As I say, we'll figure this out. So it all becomes a gooey mass of meat and potato. There we go. We'll put this aside for a minute. Let it cool a little bit more. In a perfect world, we would have had this cool a bit more, but you know what? I'm getting tired, and I've still got one more pie to make, and that's going to be a challenge. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to take an oven mitt. Look, there they are. These ones are from IKEA. They're really cheap, and actually I really like them. They fit big hands. I'm going to take this down here, and what I'm going to do is simply cover it with mashed potatoes. Yeah, I'm going to use my finger. So I started actually using the creamy mash when I was camping. So I do a few different kinds of cooking, as I said. I do home cooking. I do catering. I do camp cooking, as in like youth camps, family camps, church camps. I do camping cooking, where I actually have a couple versions of that. I do cooking when I'm backpacking. That's always fun, to not just rely on freeze-dried dinners or something, but to actually do your own dehydrating and planning your meals so that you can have some decent food while camping without it weighing too much. I also do cooking when we're out camping as, family or whatever. Done some cool stuff out there. I once cooked a cheesecake on a barbecue. Yep, that's me. That's the crazy guy.
And it was good.
And it was good. Tasted a little bit smoky and meaty, but it was good. Did a couple times. We did ostrich eggs. Those are cool. You really get freaked out thinking about, I'm going to eat an ostrich egg? And then you realize that it tastes just like an egg. Now, granted, it's the equivalent of like 18 eggs, but it really does taste like an egg. The membranes are a little bit tougher, but other than that, they're just it's just an egg. So here we go. We got our cottage pie. Now, we're going to put both of these in the oven at the same time. I got to put a cover on the meat pie. I'll come to that in just a second here. And the cottage pie, you'll notice I didn't perfectly cover it because I like to have it bubble up a bit. We want to get these potatoes crispy a little bit on top. We want to, as they bake in the oven, they're going to absorb some of the juice from the meat mixture too, and they get a little bit crispy on top. And towards the end of cooking, you can always sprinkle a bit of cheese on it, some grated cheddar, some Parmesan, something like that, just to add a little bit more to it. But that's the cottage pie ready to go. I'm going to clean my fingers off, put this over there on the stove just to get it out of the way, and then we're going to work on the meat pie. Right back. Okay, so we just moved some stuff out of the way. Now we're going to make our meat pie, and as I said, I probably made too much filling. I've got my pie crust prepared. You saw my video about pie crust. I'm not a pie crust expert. You have to do them regularly to make them great. I haven't been doing them regularly, so I accept what I've made. So So we're going to fill this up with our meat mixture. Look at that. This is going to be a hearty meal. You couple this with a salad, you got a meal fit for people who like food. So I think I would do it again with some. I'd probably put some corn probably some corn in it. I kind of like corn. Put the frozen corn in here. It'll warm up, cook up, be ready to go. Okay, so now we got that ready. We're going to quickly roll out our top and see how badly it goes because, well, it's a top. So I need my wax paper. Oh, you know what I did? I put my favorite rolling pin over in the sink, so I'm going to have to use the good old-fashioned rolling pin this time. One thing, if you're at a camp and you're doing stuff and you're worried about allergies and stuff, you're in an environment where you've got a bunch of like gluten-free environment where you have to make regular food for real people. I mean, for people, and gluten-free food for people, and you're going to do bacon. Rolling pins are actually dangerous because you can easily get flour and gluten stuck in places where it won't wash out. The French rolling pins, like the one I've been using, are tapered cylindrical things, and you can buy off Amazon. I know because we bought some for Gull Lake, a stainless steel, or was it aluminum? I think it was stainless steel French rolling pin, which is so much easier to clean and really makes it a allergen safe rolling pin because you can clean it off and you can this crust is not acting nice for me. But you can clean off that rolling pin and you can use it safely for gluten-free stuff. So I just added a bit of water to this dough. It was just falling apart and crumbly. I'm not having a good dough day, folks. I'm sorry. So let's see what happens. It's probably a bit sticky now, but that's why we have the wax paper. Oh, this might actually work okay. When I make comments like that about gluten-free stuff, I truly respect the celiac problem and the disease. I just find that it seems like it goes a bit overboard at times with some people. I grew up with someone for off and on, a friend of the family who had celiac disease, and this is back in the 70s. So I knew it existed. He was really disappointed as he got older because he wasn't going to be able to drink beer. But when I first went up to Whispering Pines to cook for a summer, for a week in the summer, I got hit with we have a camper who's gluten-free. And I panicked a little bit. I really did. Her mom was wonderful. We had a good chat. She supplied some food. But I also started learning what to do. And she was, this camper's mother was awesome because she was like, look, I trust you. You're going to do your best you can. And something's going to happen. It's okay. And that I really respected because I've also been on the other end of the spectrum where people are like, how dare you not have a separate kitchen for your gluten-free people? Okay, that's a bit extreme, but I've been on the other end of it where people get so upset if someone gets glutened accidentally. And honestly, when you're in an environment like that, and if you're conscientious, you're going to do the best you can, but mistakes are going to happen. And that's why I actually won't use, when I'm cooking at a camp or for a church function or even catering, I won't use the term gluten-free. I tend to use gluten-aware, which annoys some people, but the reason is because I'm cooking in a kitchen where I have gluten, and there's no way I can guarantee that there is no cross-contact or cross-contamination happening. I'll do my best. And people who know me know that I really do my best. I go to extremes to make sure that I take care of people and their allergies. I mean, my purchasing stuff for camp, it's like, if it may contain nuts, if it may contain something, I won't use it because I can't guarantee the safety of it for my campers. But you can't do everything gluten-free. You can't do everything dairy-free. You can do everything nut-free unless you're making a peanut butter pie. That's really going to be hard to do nut-free, which I'm making next, by the way. But you just do your best. So I don't know why I got into this gluten tangent, but it does help fill sometimes. So this pie, I crimped the edges there, just like I did with my berry pie. Hopefully I crimped them well. I'm kind of cutting off the outside edges here. You can use a knife, you can use the fork like I did. This pie and the cottage pie are both going to go in the oven at 450 degrees for about 10 minutes. Yes, 450. And then we're going to reduce the temperature after 10 minutes to about 350. And we're going to let them cook for another 45 minutes. And then we'll see how they are after that. You're going to want to let these cool a little bit. Oh, I need to do a little bit of slit in the top here. Hopefully let some of the steam out. So we'll throw them in the oven and we'll come back and see how they turn out. Okay, we're back with our meat pies. We have our cottage pie and our meat pie. Now, these look so good. Look how nice and brown and crunchy that is. This looks perfect, but we want to let these sit for a little bit before we're going to eat them. So, yeah, we'll scoop some up in a little while and let you know what it looks like. I hope you enjoy this. I hope this was helpful for you with giving you some ideas of things you can cook easily. Again, leftovers, perfect for these. Talk to you in a bit. Okay, this is the moment we've been waiting for. Our meat pies. Our meat pie and our cottage pie. How are these going to turn out? I know this one's going to be great, but let's see how our... You know what, let's start with a good one. We know this one's going to be good. Either of these pies, really, you take them, you throw maybe a salad on the side, a little bit more veggie if you want, and you've got a good, hearty meal that will satisfy the hungriest guys out there. Look at that. Oh, that looks so good. Oh, smells good too. I'm going to be a bit crazy here and put a slice of both on this plate. So we're going to cut this pie into, I'm going to cut this one into 6 pieces because it's a main course. Oh, that means I have to do weird math. Does pie come into this?
Only a little.
We hope you've enjoyed this video series on pie for Pie Day. Our goal is to entertain and feed those around us. So let's see how well this comes out, shall we? Oh, look at that. Oh, that came out pretty good. Scoop a little bit more there. You want to try some, Sarah?
Yes.
There we go. That is really good, folks.
It's a little hot.
That is really good. What do you think, Sarah?
It's delicious. The meat pie is definitely still hotter.
So there you have it, folks. I'd only do one of these for a normal meal, but I wanted to show you the 2 different styles, and while doing one, it's easy to do the other. Again, if I can do these pies for you guys and mess up the crust and do this stuff, you can do it yourself. Don't be afraid. On that note, I'm going to wish you a happy Pie Day. Please subscribe, like, thumbs up, do all the good stuff to help us get more views. Share this video with your friends. Have a great Pie Day. For Saucy Shawn's, I'm Saucy Shawn. Bye-bye.